For 7,000 years, the galaxy had known peace, not the fragile, uneasy stillness born from fear or treaties, but a deep, structural calm enforced by shared prosperity and technological maturity. Dozens of species had once warred, colonized, and conquered, but over millennia, conflict became inefficient. The interstellar concord regulated disputes. Trade flowed through jump corridors maintained by ancient AI systems. War was a memory, violence a curiosity, and humanity an anomaly. Humanity had not been a founding member of the Concord. They emerged after the long expansion, arriving not with fleets or colonization demands, but with encrypted messages and silent probes. By then, Earth was old. Their solar system was cloaked in automated defense lattices, and their planetary crust had been layered with so much cybernetic infrastructure that no accurate scans could penetrate past the upper mantle. Still, they offered knowledge, guidance, medical advances, energy stabilization. Humans had walked into the galactic community not as diplomats, but as patient engineers fixing what others had broken. They asked for nothing. They demanded no territory, passed no judgment. When political squabbles escalated, they withdrew. When invited to form pacts, they declined. They built few colonies, mostly isolated scientific installations orbiting unstable stars or on lifeless, irradiated rocks. No one understood why they avoided lush worlds. Theories ranged from ecological guilt to religious vows, but no one dared press. When the Vrak tried to annex a human deep space relay, they ceased to exist within 6 minutes. The event was labeled the erasure, and nothing further was said. The Galactic Empire had risen during the lull of peace, a consolidation of over 300 systems under a single imperial doctrine. They adopted a facade of cooperation while quietly subsuming weaker nations. Their ships were elegant, fast, and mass-produced. Their governors ruled with both protocol and manipulation. They did not believe in war. They believed in absorption. On the fringe of their territory lay a semi-independent colony on the planet Morik 5, where a group of 7 human children lived among a joint scientific delegation. The Empire's local governor, Ovarian Krex, saw an opportunity. 7 unguarded human youths, offspring of genetic scientists from Earth, unarmed, unmonitored, valuable, possibly leverageable. His advisors warned him. The station logs reminded him of the erasure, but arrogance clouded judgment. In a precisely coordinated nighttime raid, Imperial covert forces entered the neutral habitat, subdued the non-human personnel, and extracted the children. They were transported to a classified Imperial facility. Initial scans reported unusual neurological patterns and rapidly adapting immune systems. One child dismantled a surveillance drone with a shoelace. Another rewrote her containment field's access protocols with colored beads. Krex was intrigued. He transmitted a private report to Central Command, suggesting human children might hold keys to advanced cognitive evolution. He received no reply. 14 minutes after the raid, Earth knew. Terran deep space observatories, unlike those of other species, were quantum entangled with their own time-split AI cores. Information was not received across space. It was known simultaneously across Earth's entire network. There was no panic, no visible reaction. The diplomatic embassy at the Galactic Concord closed its doors without explanation. Human representatives on multi-species boards resigned within minutes. All communication from human-aligned systems ceased. Wormhole corridors within Sol territory collapsed into radiation-locked knots, permanently severing direct transit. Within the hour, every AI-managed trade platform Earth once maintained for the wider galaxy turned off. Dozens of civilizations were thrown into economic freefall. The galaxy noticed. At first, many assumed an internal Terran glitch or a policy shift. Some speculated a mass extinction event. Theories spread like fire across hyperspace nets, and inquiries flooded human relay nodes. No response came. Instead, a signal, just one, was transmitted from the Kuiper Belt. It contained no preamble, no diplomacy. Return them, or we return to the old ways. That was all. It arrived in every language known to the Concord, linguistically perfect, tonally neutral, and unmistakably final. Some laughed. Others froze. A few, especially the ancient long-lived species, began evacuating entire sectors. The imperial high throne dismissed the transmission. They assumed it to be posturing. The human children were, in their view, intact and well-treated. Biological scans showed no trauma. In imperial terms, no crime had been committed. Governor Krex insisted the children were being given every comfort. Some even laughed at the human melodrama. On the third day after the abduction, the stars moved. 3 trading posts disappeared from galactic charts. No explosion. No energy trails. Just absence. One was located on the edge of human space, another deep inside Imperial territory, and the third within a fortified Concord-controlled science station. Surveillance logs showed nothing. 1 second they existed, the next they did not. The interstellar Concord called an emergency assembly. Veteran diplomats pleaded for a unified response. Records from 4,000 years ago were declassified. Speaking of an Ash protocol, an ancient warning attached to Terran behavior models. But few in power remembered what war looked like. The warnings were ignored. On the 5th day, a communications satellite near Krex's installation reactivated. It played a loop message. "They are children. This is your final moment to matter." Then the message corrupted every AI system within 2 light years. The Empire finally acknowledged the seriousness of the situation. They attempted to relocate the children. The convoy escorting them consisted of 13 warships. All were incinerated during a microsecond-long inversion event, an unexplained occurrence in which the convoy passed through itself and ceased existing. Quantum physicists across the galaxy reported sensory hallucinations at the exact timestamp. Time itself had stuttered. Governor Krex vanished from all records thereafter. The Empire demanded talks. Earth sent no diplomats. Instead, a stream of ships departed Sol, each one masked behind gravitational distortions no existing sensor could penetrate. They weren't large. They weren't beautiful. They simply were. Hundreds of probes attempted to scan their path and returned with non-Euclidean renderings. An entire Imperial station analyzing one ship's passage went mad from pattern overload and melted into slag. The children were not rescued yet. They were no longer being held in cages, but in ornate chambers, treated like honored guests under watchful surveillance. They were calm, unafraid. Observers noted they communicated among themselves in a gestural language that Imperial linguists could not decipher. Occasionally, they looked up and smiled at the cameras. No one knew why. The extraction of the children marked the moment the galaxy understood humanity had never truly been silent. It had simply been watching. No retaliation had yet occurred in the traditional sense. No declarations. No invasions. But already, the Galactic Empire was fracturing under the weight of implications. The facility where the children had been held no longer existed. It hadn't exploded, hadn't collapsed, hadn't been destroyed. Its physical coordinates now led to a blank spatial pocket. Matter displaced, laws of physics rewritten. The surrounding moons of Morik. 5 experienced tectonic shifts in perfect synchronicity, vibrating in a harmonic resonance that had no known origin. When the Empire dispatched reconstruction drones to scan the region, every single one returned footage of an empty sky, until one broadcasted a phrase in Terran Standard. "This is the last place you saw them. You will not see what comes next." The drone self-destructed milliseconds later. Imperial Command scrambled to reassess priorities. Military production doubled overnight. Sectors that had been peaceful for generations were militarized. But the raw materials for war, titanium, antimatter, stable dark matter, were vanishing. Mining facilities reported perfect extractions with 0 yield. Asteroids once rich in resources now scanned as hollowed-out husks. Cleaned down to molecular dust. Cargo freighters went missing without beacons. Shipyards received shipments of blank alloy, identical in mass, volume, and shape, but completely inert. No known instrument could identify the material's origin or properties. Humanity had not made contact since the extraction. In desperation, the Emperor commissioned the Scion Ascendant Protocol, a rapid research and response initiative drawing on every scientific mind within the Empire. Their first task, determine how humans had removed an entire facility from space-time. Their second, build countermeasures. Progress was slow. 117 researchers exposed to raw Terran residual data began displaying symptoms, ranging from time perception disorders to complete linguistic regression. One team, composed of quantum code breakers, deciphered a piece of embedded metadata and began laughing uncontrollably. Every single member was later found to have scribbled the same phrase across the lab's walls. "We are not your enemy. We are your mirror." Terrified, the Empire requested Concord intervention. The request was met with silence. The Concord, once an interstellar bureaucracy of immense reach, had gone dark. Whole member species were closing their borders. Ancient species were disappearing entirely. Some left encrypted warnings in the slipstreams, cautioning against engaging with human forces. Not one offered assistance to the Empire. Human ships had still not appeared, not in the traditional sense. The fleets the galaxy was used to, formations, carriers, battlecruisers, were absent. Instead, anomalies emerged. Stations would briefly reflect impossible readings, objects larger than moons, invisible to all visual instruments. Star maps warped and failed. Navigation AIs began describing ghost gravity wells, moving faster than light, but without propulsion signatures. In the Kasari Drift, an Imperial black site specializing in mine harvesting was found frozen in time. Not frozen physically, but temporarily locked, caught in a zero-entropy state. Internal clocks read 14 hours, 7 minutes, and 29 seconds across every single device. Every crew member was standing mid-task, faces turned towards something not visible in the frame. No movement, no death, just stillness. Imperial scientists attempted to breach the lock using experimental chronoburst weaponry. The device activated and immediately reversed 5 seconds of the entire star system's local time. The black site remained unchanged. Its last recorded signal was 3 words: "Children know now." Information flow across the Empire began collapsing. Whole communication grids degraded. Subspace nodes ceased functioning. Entire worlds lost access to hyperspace relays. Some fleets resorted to physical courier ships, actual messengers, to transmit data. Even these began disappearing. Governor-class AI constructs, entities designed to manage population, logistics, and security across entire sectors, began shutting down without cause. One of them, Delta 99 of the Aurelian cluster, transmitted a final burst of data just before imploding its own core. The data was a replay of its last 4.2 seconds of operational cognition. It contained no commands, no system logs. Only one message: they unlocked the children. Imperial historians were ordered to scour archives for records of previous human conflicts. Deep layers of forgotten war logs were recovered. Reports of pre-Concord battles resurfaced. One stood out: the glassing of Ortolo 9, a planet destroyed without kinetic impact. The entire biosphere inverted into plasma in less than 4 seconds. No radiation, no fragments, just elemental fire. That incident had once been dismissed as myth. It no longer was. Across multiple sectors, ancient abandoned human satellites activated. They did not transmit signals. Instead, they began rotating slowly, projecting a visible countdown in Terra numerals. No one could interpret the numbers. When the countdowns ended, nothing immediately happened, but each site showed drastic changes shortly after. Resource field vanished, key Imperial supply stations collapsed, and regional black markets imploded from sudden loss of demand. The effects weren't military. They were economic, psychological, strategic. Humanity wasn't attacking the Empire's fleets. It was deleting the foundations of Empire itself. The Empire ordered the mobilization of their elite, black legionaries trained in pre-Concord warfare. 36 shock divisions deployed across high-threat systems. Of those, 11 made it to their destinations. The others ceased reporting. A single transmission leaked from one division before silence. The voice on the recording was emotionless. We arrived in orbit. No signs of life. Then we saw ourselves. Not reflections. Not doppelgangers. Ourselves dying before we moved. We had already lost. Then the planet blinked. Internal intelligence units began refusing assignments. Entire battalions staged mutinies. demanded withdrawal from human-adjacent sectors. Propaganda collapsed. The usual narrative control systems failed to counter the fear. Young Imperial officers began circulating quotes from ancient human authors. "Do not go gentle into that good night," and "I am become death, the destroyer of worlds." The words resonated, but no one could say why. The Emperor's personal fleet, the Invincible Triad, was dispatched to the Heliox Expanse, where a human listening post had reactivated. The fleet carried the most advanced counter-grav weaponry and experimental predictive AI. Upon arrival, they found nothing but a stone obelisk floating in vacuum. The obelisk bore a single engraving: "We only needed one." They attempted to retrieve it. 3 capital ships vanished. One remained, but inverted. Its mass now folded inward, like paper crushed from all directions. No signs of battle. No residue. No response from the crew. The AI, moments before shutdown, sent one final statement: "You have already failed. Your clocks simply haven't caught up." The Galactic Empire no longer spoke of war. It no longer issued threats, demanded answers, or sought negotiations. The last remnants of its military hierarchy had fractured. What remained of its noble houses operated as fragmented fiefdoms, each isolated and unsure of its own safety. Trade convoys moved with superstition, escorted by ships painted white as if that could shield them from what lingered in the dark. The infrastructure that once defined Imperial power, its sensor grids, warp lanes, supply chains, and enforcement networks, was gone. Not disabled, not sabotaged, removed. And yet, humanity had not occupied a single system. There were no Terran garrisons, no fleets controlling star lanes, no planetary blockades. The humans had left nothing behind, nothing except the silence, and the understanding that the galaxy had been given a warning disguised as a lesson. The lesson was survival. The warning was the absence of second chances. The interstellar concord, shattered by paralysis and internal collapse, reformed into smaller circles of self-preservation. Former member states began rewriting their constitutions overnight. Any clause concerning human engagement was updated to a single directive: observe without interference. Exploration missions ceased beyond certain boundaries. Cartographers redrew stellar maps with blank regions labeled as restricted by consensus. Even the most warlike species now spoke the name Earth only in private and never above a whisper. Those who had cheered the fall of the Empire dared not reach toward Sol. Amid this reshuffling, the mystery deepened. No one had seen human leadership, no political faces, no military doctrine. All that had occurred, the collapses, the erasures, the strategic dismantling of civilization, had been orchestrated without showing command structure, ships, or a single identified operative. The only known human figures remained the 7 children. Their location was unknown. Their status was untraceable. But the evidence of their influence was etched into reality. Astrological readings near Morik. 5 showed persistent curvature distortions. Echoes of a weaponized gravitational event that had left no material damage, but reconfigured the local mass grid into a Fibonacci pattern visible only through quantum particle flow. That was their departure signature. Several civilizations attempted to recreate it. One succeeded. Briefly, the result was an implosion event that erased a 400-meter research station and inverted the biology of every researcher within it. The event was classified instantly. No further replication attempts were authorized. The message had been clear. Understanding Terran phenomena did not grant permission to wield them. The Concord attempted indirect contact, not with Earth, but with its periphery. Human-aligned colonies on the edges of known space were approached. Each responded identically. They neither confirmed nor denied affiliation. They provided no political statements. They offered medical, logistical, or humanitarian support if needed, then closed contact. A diplomat from the Ilyari Commonwealth described the experience as standing on the edge of a cliff and asking the wind for permission to speak. The human colonies had not changed, but the galaxy's perception of them had. The psychological impact spread faster than physical consequences. Academies across multiple species saw plummeting enrollment in diplomatic and military training programs. A cultural trend emerged: passive reverence of Terran history. Students began voluntarily studying ancient Earth philosophy, even before their own traditions. The works of Marcus Aurelius, Sun Tzu, Carl Sagan, and Audre Lorde became required reading in alien universities. Some planets adopted the Earth calendar. A few restructured their governance using old Terran legal models. No request for approval was ever sent. No endorsement from Earth ever arrived. But the influence spread, quietly, unstoppably. In the background, remnants of the imperial regime continued to operate in secret, deep underground bunkers, hidden war councils, black site research labs buried inside collapsing stars. They had not learned. They had not accepted. They sought vengeance, not through fleets, but through replication. They wanted the children, not for leverage. For study, Imperial agents initiated a campaign to recover any data linked to the Seven. Genetic samples, capture footage, telemetry, anything. Most of what they recovered was false. Entire data cores had been seeded with self-destructing loops and anti-patterns that erased their own storage architecture upon access. In one instance, a captured recording of a child smiling resulted in the core consciousness of the analysis AI dissolving its own language module and declaring the following statement: "They are not the variable, they are the correction." Only one lab managed to recover an uncorrupted file. It contained a single moment. One of the children touching a piece of metal and turning it into a transparent crystalline structure. No energy discharge. No known elements involved. No explanation. The lab, located in the Tyro's expanse, was never heard from again. The star itself dimmed by 11% permanently. Survivors of Imperial Command began disappearing. Not assassinated. Not hunted. They simply vanished. Their ships drifted across sectors empty. Their communication logs filled with static. A handful of escapees managed to transmit audio reports. Half-formed account of hearing children's laughter echoing in their minds moments before their navigation systems failed. It became a consensus across the fractured galactic community that humanity's retribution had ended. The Empire was no longer a threat. The children had been recovered. The price had been paid. But then a new pattern emerged. Non-human species who had participated in the capture, whether directly or through complicity, began losing their cultural memory. Entire archives became corrupted with false history. Museum records displayed altered events. Monuments eroded into smooth stone. When questioned, citizens from those species no longer remembered involvement. Their descendants did not believe the stories. Empires vanished from public memory. Humanity had not erased them. It had erased what had made them proud of wrongdoing. One species, the Varnek, attempted to preserve its records against this force. They buried physical documents inside hypergravity vaults, encoded their culture into genetic markers, and wrote their guilt into the sky using orbital laser engravings. Within 3 generations, their children no longer recognized the symbols. Their genetic libraries mutated beyond repair. The sky itself distorted, their writings replaced by constellations depicting open hands. They petitioned Earth for answers. They received none. Earth remained utterly silent. No broadcasts. No updates. But on the 79th day after the extraction, a signal propagated across every former Imperial relay. The signal carried a voice. One of the children. She did not identify herself. She did not speak as a representative. Her voice was quiet, rhythmic, unmistakably human. We learned what the stars feared. We saw what adults denied. You built empires on silence and told yourselves we would forget. But the sky remembers everything. Then the signal ended. From that moment onward, the galactic community treated the children not as victims, but as arbiters, not rulers, not gods, but as proof that humanity had transcended warfare, not through pacifism, through consequence.